Thank you for the work you all submitted for assignment 2, for week 2 of this course. Many of you, however, wrote more than you actually needed to, so I want to take a step back. If you look at this PowerPoint, you will see that we're between us constructing a working example of the title, Write about a time when you or someone you know did something without thinking it through. And we'll take it through step by step. The exam board like you to produce about 2 sides of writing for this section of the examination. And in the autobiographical writing, remember from the previous PowerPoints, there were 5 steps. Step 1, make your reader curious to find out what's happening and refer to some words in the title you are answering. Step 2, you must set the scene, the time of day, the place where the action takes place, and so on. Step 3 is the main action of your story, so the main problem, if you like, that's going to be described. And you must write about 3/4 of a page for that. Step 4 is where you resolve everything and you sort everything out from your story to a positive ending if you can. It's much easier to argue positively than negatively. And then in step 5, you echo something from your opening paragraph. In the next slide, you'll see what this actually looks like. For the purposes of the work this week, I'd like to give you a selected scenario. If you look at the writing on this slide, you'll see that laid out in full. It's a dark, cold morning in November, and you've got a school match. You haven't been selected to play this time. You're 13 years old and you are proud to play for the school team, so obviously you're disappointed. More than that, you're angry because Jack has been selected and he's boasted in front of the team how much better he is than you. You decide to get your own back and plan to go to the changing room where everyone keeps their kit and remove one of his boots so he can't play, and you are asked. You haven't thought about anybody catching you do it. When you get there, you take one boot and go and put it in the bin and cover it up so no one can see it. But your friend comes in and catches you. He challenges you about what you're doing and you try to explain yourself. Your friend isn't impressed and points out it's the first time Jack has been chosen and he deserves a chance. You see his point and quietly put the boot back. You were about to do something that you hadn't really thought through. Now, if you look at this scenario, it's about a very short moment in time. It's about someone who is 13 years old and hasn't really thought about this whole situation and the impact it will have. So this is how the title might look if we expand it. If you look at step 1 in the first box, we have intrigued the reader. I didn't really expect my day would turn out the way it did. We haven't told them why, we've just made the reader curious. We've told them that you're 13 years old at the time and that you haven't thought this particular situation through, so you've referred to some of the words in the title. Step 2 begins to set the scene, the time of day, and so on. It's not complete, but you can use it as a starter for this week's work. The same with step 3. It takes you to the changing room and how you work out what you're going to do and what happens on that occasion. Step 4, of course, your friend arrives and sees what you're doing, and that's how we have to change the situation now and resolve it. If you see that, there's a space where your friend has come in and asks you what you're doing, and then we've got to unpack that situation until you reach the point at the end of it where you say you'll put it back. And then if you look at step 5, we again refer to some words from the question. So steps 1 and 5 are done for you in this exemplar, but steps 2, 3 and 4 you need to add some work to. For today's purposes, there are some bullets offered to complete step 3 and step 4 so that you can see how a story will build and then be resolved. If you write a couple of sentences about each of the bullets in your steps, that will help you construct the narrative. So let's put all of this together now. If you use the material in step 1, that's complete. So include that in your answer to this question for today's purposes. You do need to add a little bit more detail to step 2. There aren't bullets for that, but maybe you could include something about how you were feeling, what you were doing to get ready, and how you perhaps went out of the house really quietly so nobody could see you. Step 3, you have the bullets to answer, and that will help you complete step 3. The same can be said for step 4. Write a little bit about each of the bullets, and that will complete your material. Step 5, where you echo the title, is complete, so you don't need to do anything with that. And when you put all of those together, you've got a working example of a complete piece of work for paper 1, section B. Now, just to end, if you have a look at the rest of the material on this slide, it explains what you have to do to get a grade 4 in information given by the exam board. There are 6 points: creating tension and including your thoughts and feelings. We've done that. Make your writing interesting and believable, more importantly. We've done that. You should try and include some spoken language. Structure your writing using paragraphs. We've done that. Spelling ought to be as correct as you can make it, and likewise punctuation, full stops and other punctuation like question marks and exclamation marks.